For 11 minutes, I wasn't here. No heartbeat. No measurable brain activity. Nothing. They told me later I was clinically dead. I'm 79 years old now. I was 73 that day. March 14th, 2019. Pi Day. My grandson had texted me some joke about circles that morning. I didn't get it. I told him I'd call him later. I never did. I was in my garage, sorting through a plastic bin of fishing lures I hadn't used in years. The radio was crackling low in the background. I remember thinking I should probably give half that stuff away. Then my chest tightened. Not sharp, not dramatic, just wrong. Like someone reached inside me and turned a dial they weren't supposed to touch. I lowered myself onto the concrete floor, back against the workbench. The cement felt cold through my flannel shirt. The last thing I saw was a chipped mug on the shelf. World's okayest grandpa. Then everything went quiet. People like to ask what it was like. They expect light, music, dead relatives smiling in white robes. There was none of that. No tunnel, no warmth, no reunion. It wasn't even dark. It was unfinished. That's the only word that fits. Like walking through a house that's framed but never drywalled. You can see where rooms are supposed to be, but they're empty, hollow. And somehow I knew I was looking at my life. Not the highlights, not the mistakes, the absences. Entire spaces where something should have been. Not promotions, not achievements. Moments. Moments I had stood inside physically, but never really entered. And that feeling, that blank page feeling, was worse than fear. It was incompleteness. When I woke up, 4 days had passed. Hospital lights above me. A steady beeping somewhere to my right. My mouth felt like sandpaper. My daughter was asleep in a chair beside the bed, her head tilted against the wall, her hand resting on the rail near mine, like she'd fallen asleep mid-reach. And I noticed something small. She was still wearing her wedding ring. She'd been divorced for 2 years. That detail hit harder than the heart attack. I had been loud during her divorce, opinionated, certain. Marriage takes work. People give up too easily. You should have tried harder. I had speeches. What I didn't have were questions. I never asked her what it felt like to lie next to someone and feel alone. I never asked what keeping that ring meant. Grief? Habit? Hope? Shame? I didn't know, because I never shut up long enough to find out. Lying there with tubes in my arms, I realized something humiliating. I had spent 73 years being articulate, confident, full of advice, and maybe 11 total minutes actually listening. The doctors called me lucky, triple bypass, good recovery odds. My wife moved our bedroom downstairs, bought one of those plastic pill organizers with big block letters, Monday through Sunday. I remember staring at it, irritated. Not at her, at what it represented. Old, fragile, dependent. But during recovery, when I had nothing but time, I started noticing things I had ignored for decades. She had been organizing pills for me for 20 years already. The labels just changed. She always placed my coffee mug on the left side because I'm left-handed. Always. She'd learned to sleep through my snoring, but if my breathing shifted even slightly, she'd wake instantly. 46 years of marriage. I couldn't remember the last time I said thank you without it sounding automatic. During recovery, the dreams started. I was back in that unfinished space, but this time I could see what belonged in the empty rooms. My son, at 23, sitting across from me, hands shaking slightly as he told me he was gay. I remember how I straightened in my chair, how I made it about my confusion, my discomfort. I never said, "I love you." In the dream, I saw his face when I didn't. I saw how quickly he learned to protect himself from me. I saw my wife at the kitchen sink the day her mother died, her shoulders barely trembling. I walked in and started talking about paperwork, funeral logistics. I offered solutions. I didn't offer my arms. There was a voicemail from my brother, Tuesday afternoon. I saw his name flash on my phone, thought, I'll call back later. He died 3 months after that. I don't remember what I was busy with that day. Whatever it was, it didn't matter. 6 months after surgery, I went back into the garage. Same concrete floor, same workbench. I found a shoebox tucked behind old paint cans. Inside were letters and drawings from my kids when they were little. Construction paper folded unevenly. Crayon spelling mistakes. "I love you, Daddy." There was one from my daughter, maybe 8 years old, that said, "You're my favorite person," with a drawing of us holding hands. I sat down on the same spot where I had died, and I couldn't remember the last time I had held her hand. Couldn't remember choosing to stop. That's when it clicked. Those 11 minutes weren't about death. They were about attention. I had been present for my life, but I hadn't been open. I had collected love like souvenirs, stored it, displayed it, but I hadn't always stepped into it. And here's the sentence that keeps coming back to me. I was loved more than I allowed myself to feel. That's hard to admit at 79. So I started small. I called my daughter. No advice, no revisiting the divorce. I just asked how her Tuesday was going. And I listened. Really listened. I noticed pauses, breathing shifts, the way her voice lifted when she talked about pottery class. I let silence exist without filling it. I called my son. I told him I wished I had handled that day differently. There was a long pause. Then he said, "Okay." Just that. Okay. It wasn't dramatic, but it was something. 2 months later, he called me just to talk. He had never done that before. My wife and I started taking slow evening walks. Not exercise, just wandering. One night she stopped near a house with wind chimes. She said, "I always wanted wind chimes, but you said they were too noisy. I bought them the next day. Now I fall asleep to that sound. And sometimes I think about how many years of quiet we lived in because I preferred silence." Last month, my grandson, the one who sent the Pi Day joke, asked if I'd teach him to fish. My hands shake now. I can't tie knots the way I used to. We didn't catch a single fish. We sat by the lake for 4 hours. He told me about school, about a girl he likes but is too scared to talk to. I told him being scared usually means it matters. It was one of the best days of my life. No fish, just presence. I don't know when my next 11 minutes will come. None of us do. But I know what I don't want to see again. Blank pages, empty rooms, unfinished spaces. So if the phone rings now, I answer it. If someone I love starts talking, I don't prepare a response. I listen. Right now, the wind chimes are ringing outside my window. My wife is in the next room. In a minute, I'm going to go ask her what she's thinking about. Not because I need to know, just because I want to hear her voice. That's all those 11 minutes gave me. Not heaven, not secrets. Just this. Pay attention before the pages run out.